You need to update your profile like today. When you hear this, you need to go ahead and open the app, open the browser, open whatever, and get to update. And Chat GPT can help you if you're confused.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Care to Elaborate with Taylor and Travarus. We have made it to our season finale. It is so crazy to think we just started this because of a conversation and a question. It's really amazing how far we've come in this short amount of time. Before I get into more, I want to introduce my co-host, Taylor. Taylor, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. We are at the holiday season. Can we please get to tomorrow?
We promised you all a part two of our networking, and this is going to be specifically about networking on LinkedIn. We gave you all the tips and tricks to network in person, how to navigate, how to talk to someone, how to approach them, how to follow up. But now we're talking about the virtual component and how we are going to be able to scale our networking virtually. Taylor and I both have experience in this space because I've gotten my last three jobs from LinkedIn.
Oh,
Taylor, I'll let them talk. I'll let you talk more about like your experience. 'Cause I think you have really tangible, real time experiences and examples you can share with the people. But talk a little bit about your presence on LinkedIn for those who don't know.
yes. So I'm not going to use the term LinkedIn influencer because I don't believe in that term. But I do like to create content on LinkedIn. So when you think of creators, normally you think TikTok or Instagram or Twitch or whatever. But no one really thinks about LinkedIn. And so when I saw the gap, last year, I'm like, students need internships. I've had plenty of them. Students need help finding full time jobs. I so happen to have one. Let me share my knowledge. And so for the past year, I've been posting semi consistently. It's been real consistent like the past 6 months or so. But on LinkedIn, and I've been able to grow my following to over 35,000 people. It's still growing a little bit every day, but I share my knowledge, I share my story, I share my insights, and for some reason people enjoy hearing it. And I'm just gonna keep yapping until maybe one day they don't.
It's not for some reason. Your content is very relatable. I think the things that you have done is articulate a gap, which you mentioned. You also have found a way to contribute to that audience that you've cultivated, but you've provided value from the beginning. So choosing an area in which you see a gap, providing value to the audience, and then being consistent, I think seems very like step one, step two, step three. But that stuff is hard to do because the consistency that it takes, even on these micro scale to begin. So we're going to talk about all of that. All that stuff is very, very difficult. But you have made yourself a go-to hub for all things internships.
Yes.
Why did you decide to pursue LinkedIn as a platform versus any of the other ones that you've told me to
Mm.
begin to grow your audience?
So number one, I feel like when people are deciding what platform to post on, you have to figure out what is the most authentic to you. So in my case, I don't like recording. Well, I'm here now, but I don't like recording videos of myself. I also don't really like Instagram in the way that it's like all razzle dazzle fake type stuff. And I had to make a decision to figure out, based on who my audience is and where I want to meet them, what app I wanted to use. So, number one, you just have to figure out what app is the best for you, depending on what you want to do. And I think also I realized that the barrier to entry on LinkedIn is low because only 1% of people actually post on LinkedIn. And I'm like, if students need internships and if I'm talking about career opportunities, then what better place to do that than the place where people are literally going to find jobs? Like it just aligned in a way that made the most sense. And I think with me, I also have this. I like to write things out. Like I am a certified yapper, y'all. I love to talk all day, but it is something about being able to write a post and share value that way that just really resonates with me versus again like having to go and talk or like take all these pictures and stuff. That stuff I don't really enjoy. So I chose also LinkedIn because it truly resonates with, what I enjoy doing on just a day-to-day basis.
I think that it's amazing, and I think I want to get more into that as we go forward. But let's start with people who know what LinkedIn is, but they aren't using it to their greatest possibilities. Let's discuss what are the very first things that are needed in order to begin to have a LinkedIn presence. The first thing that I would say is to determine why you're there.
Mm, that's huge.
What is the reason why you want to use LinkedIn? Let's say that for in your case, your audience is young professionals trying to learn how to get internships. For me, it may be a 30 something who has been navigating in the real world but don't know how to navigate virtually. And you don't know that there are these jobs and people who are on the platform all the time looking for people who are like you. For the people who are in this space where you are looking for a job, you cannot just decide day one, I want a job. I'm going to LinkedIn to find one. There are some foundational steps that you need in order to begin to even have a presence on LinkedIn. I would say the first thing you need to do is make sure that your profile is up to date.
Period.
Taylor, can you talk about how important it is for your profile to be up to date?
Yes, it is so important for your profile to be up to date because if someone is looking for someone to hire and your profile is not up to date, then why would they select you? So, I'll go back to one of my internship experiences. And one of my previous internships, I actually was a recruiter. So I had to use LinkedIn Recruiter to recruit people. And for those whose profiles were updated and had, their profile picture, who had their experience listed, who had the skills in their profile. The skills are so important because that is how
Yes.
people search for you. Like literally,
Yeah.
they're searching by skills, and the people who have the most relevant skills or the most skills will populate first. So, yes, if you don't have your profile up to date, then that could honestly deter recruiters from reaching out to you because they're going to assume that you don't have the skill sets necessary to be able to do the job. So, yes, you need to update your profile like today. When you hear this, you need to go ahead and open the app, open the browser, open whatever, and get to update. And ChatGPT can help you if you're confused.
And I want to reiterate what you said in the simplest terms so people understand this. LinkedIn, the platform, has a business vertical called LinkedIn Recruiter that they sell to companies, which means there's a back end to LinkedIn. On that back end, they search for people based on skills and keywords. These skills and keywords are how they search for people based on the job description that they're looking for. Sometimes they'll be in the pool of people who have already applied. Sometimes it'll be people who are far and away from the role altogether. And that's when recruiters go ahead and personal message or DM you in LinkedIn to say, "Are you interested in this role?" Because your profile and the job description align and it makes sense. Now you're on their radar. I think that's a very, very important thing. So making sure your profile is up to date is step one. But going a little bit deeper, I mentioned this in another episode. No experience is in vain. If you
Mm,
are a younger professional and you've worked at the YMCA, you've worked at the grocery store, that experience is relevant. It is up to you to optimize how to make sure that that thing stands out on the platform and to make it relevant to a job that you want to have. But every piece of experience is relevant and it needs to be there. It's a bit harder if you've never had a job and you're starting on LinkedIn to look for your first job. I'm not sure how well that's going to work for you. But Taylor, what do you talk to folks about who are more junior in their experience, but they want to use LinkedIn, but they don't have much to show for what they're trying to do?
yes. So I think there are a couple ways to go about this. So number one, if you don't have work experience, one thing you can do is put your portfolio or like your class projects on your LinkedIn. People be sleep on this. People truly sleep on this. They think that, oh, I have to have X experience or do X things. Those experiences are great. But if you are, looking for a role and you just don't have any internship experience, what you can do is speak to some of the projects that you have completed, whether that's personally or in class. So there's also a part of LinkedIn where you can upload that to your profile for recruiters to see. I've talked to recruiters and they're like, if students don't have work experience, but they have some type of tangible experience through their coursework, that also can be helpful. I think the second thing to do is to post. It's great to have a profile. That's wonderful. But as I mentioned before, only 1% of people that have LinkedIn profiles actually post stuff. So if you are interested, 1%.
1%?
Yes. I don't know if it's changed, but since I have talked to people at LinkedIn, 1%. Literally.
That's incredible.
That's wild, right? So, if you are a student and you're like, again, I may not have experience, but you have knowledge, share your knowledge on LinkedIn, whether that's like reposting an article and, adding your own thought piece or writing your own content about what you're doing and what you've learned and some of the skill sets that you have. That stuff is so important. And again, it may not be, one to one with you having, work or internship experience, but it can help you when it comes to just visibility overall.
And I think that you hit something else that's very important. It may not be one to one. You may not have this experience, but you're not going to all of a sudden optimize your profile and get the job tomorrow.
Right.
LinkedIn is a platform where you need to be patient. So let's just say I've been on LinkedIn for 3 months. My profile is as up to date as it can be. I'm applying for jobs. Nobody's hitting me up. What is missing? Taylor alluded to this a bit. You need to post, like, and share content on LinkedIn. The more active you are, the more attention you will draw to yourself. Let's say that Taylor posts an internship opportunity, and whether you've applied for it or you are just interested in it, you like it, and you share it to your audience. Taylor may see that and then circle back to your profile and be like, "Well, who's this?"
And I do that actually.
And then you may be the, and then you never know who's looking at your profile, and the person who has 30,000 some odd connections sees your profile and maybe like, hey, oh wow, this is interesting, right? And you never know who's keeping you top of mind based on the information they've seen on your profile. So that's another reason you have to have you have to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I know that's cliche, but with LinkedIn, it's really important to have your profile as up to date as possible. But getting back to the ways of getting noticed, you need to engage on the platform. Like, share, repost, comment. All those things help the algorithm to understand that you're here, you're active. People will engage with you, and the algorithm may begin to send things your way that are more fruitful. People who are more willing to talk, as opposed to you just sending DMs blindly to people who may or may not connect with you. So speaking about the engagement on the platform, Taylor, what are some things that you did specifically that helped your platform to grow?
Mm.
Where you've seen that not just grow in numbers, but people interacting with you without you having to reach out.
Authenticity. Say it with
Mm,
me again. Authenticity. I, on LinkedIn is one of those places. I was just talking to somebody who told me that they don't post on LinkedIn because they feel like it's like, bleh, like everyone is
stuffy.
always, yeah, everyone is like, I got a new job or
Mm,
and it can be like that. And because I was aware that most people, view it in that way, I tried to be different in the way that I communicate and post things. So, for example, I'll give y'all literally an example from like 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago, I posted on LinkedIn about my anxiety. For the people who do not know, Travarus noticed I have debilitating anxiety, like diagnosed. Okay. And I made a post about it, just like a little, hey y'all, like, because a lot of people will come up to me and assume like, oh, you have the perfect life or the child. That's a lie. I don't know who told y'all that. That's cap, 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 cap. And so I made a post about that, just basically saying like vulnerable out there, like people assume X, but actually my life is like Y. the way I thought I was gonna get, a couple likes, whatever. The way that people were commenting in that post, not only commenting on the post, but literally messaging me in my DMs,
Mm,
telling me thank you for that post. Like, I feel seen. This resonates with me, asking me about what I do specifically for my anxiety, like all of these various things. And I didn't expect it to go this way, but it truly was like a conversation starter. And
yeah.
again, this is all because I'm authentically sharing my story in a way that is relatable to other people. So my biggest tip here is to always be authentic. You can like make a post that ChatGPT wrote and use it all day, but that does not have the same vibe, and it's not going to get the same traction, at least in my opinion, as an authentic post that comes from the heart.
One of the things that I love that, and I want to double down on this. Something that one of my favorite rappers said. It wasn't even in their song. It was like in a speech. He said, "Don't go with the flow. Be the flow."
Mm,
Meaning,
that's a word.
meaning, there's a way that the platform goes. There's a way that there's a normalcy. There's a normal flow with how things go. What people usually post, the content that people usually consume, and people get tired of the same old, same old.
Yeah.
What authenticity does in every atmosphere, every environment, authenticity cuts through because there are people who often feel like you that don't know how to say what you have said
Right.
and or are afraid of that this fits should it be here. But authenticity to me is when you take something that you feel that you think that you can put it in a palatable way in an environment where it might not usually exist.
Right.
And on the platform like LinkedIn, where it's all professional, everybody got a job, it's their professional highlight reel. Who's actually speaking about things that they're experiencing while having the background of I'm successful. So you can't come to LinkedIn and just say I have anxiety and people are going to care if you don't have anything going on, right? Like
True.
if you are Joe Schmo and you just put your post and you haven't contributed value to the environment, to the space, people wouldn't care. But because you've provided value, because you are a real person, and because they deem you as being successful, now your story matters. Now your story matters. I'm going to go on a small tangent for a second, and
Yeah, yeah.
it relates. If anybody is a sports fan, you know that when there is the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals, they always have these storylines that go up to the actual games or the
Mhm.
game, and they always find these storylines that are the roots of the star players and how they began and what they did to get there. And one day I was telling my wife, like, you know what's interesting? Nobody's going to care about the loser story after the game is over.
That is
And I don't mean to say, but I mean loser. I mean like the person who doesn't win the game. So the second best team in the NFL, they won't care about their story as much because they've lost. And I say that to say when you have to be a winner for people to care about your losses. In
mm,
order for
that's
somebody
a
to care,
started
yeah,
that quote.
you have to be a winner for people to care about your losses.
Mm,
No one cares about your trajectory to get to the top if you didn't get to the top. If you stopped at level 8, but level 10 is the space that is the winner, nobody will care about that because you didn't achieve the goal. So saying that to say,
mm,
because Taylor is successful and deemed to be successful by these people, her story resonates further beyond because it's like, damn, she has this life. I feel this way. I understand. I want to interact. They might not be able to understand Taylor's accolades or the tips that she shares or the internships that they may not be able to get those, but you know what they can get? Wow, her and I are on the same level. I have anxiety too. I want to reach out to her.
mm.
So you bring yourself down to the level of the people when you are authentic.
Right. That was a great way of putting it, Travarus. Like
Thank you.
that. Yeah, we got to take that quote. That definitely.
Yeah. But continuing with this trend of LinkedIn and how they get noticed, what do you think are some ways that people, let's assume profile is intact, profile
Mhm.
picture, Their about me section is good. Their keywords are up to date. Their experience is up to date. They're liking, sharing, and they're doing all the things necessary, but they may not get the quote unquote traction that they want.
Mm.
What do you then start to do to see if you can kind of spread your seeds of influence?
Number one, this is a huge one, and I think a lot of people don't do it. So let's say you have influencers who are large, or what they call LinkedIn influencers. So people with over 20,000 followers, I'll say, as a starting point. Even if they actually, that's a lot. People with over 5,000 followers, 10,000, like people with thousands of followers or connections. You going under, if they post something, you going underneath their posts and saying, "Oh, I agree with said point. My perspective is X, Y, Z." That is a great way to start conversations with other people, especially if
Hmm.
you're going on people's pages again who maybe have like 50,000 followers, 70,000 followers. Like once you start getting higher up in the numbers, the visibility of you and your comment is going to increase exponentially. So,
Absolutely.
yes, being able to go underneath their post and share your own perspective or like think piece, that is gonna, maybe probe other people or convince them to reach out to you or to like your comment or to respond to your comment, and thus increasing your visibility. I think that's a huge one. I think another thing, I don't know if they still have this. LinkedIn used to have collaborative articles where you could share your
Mm,
perspective. I think they may be getting rid of them. They probably will still be around by the time that we release this, but that is a great thing also, like contributing to those collaborative articles and again sharing your expertise. Huge
oh
thing.
yeah, that was yeah. I was. I haven't. I should have. I slept on that. I should have been doing that the entire
i was
time.
I was doing it. I was doing it.
Yeah,
It's a
but
great
it
thing.
helps contribute to your staying power on the platform because it allows you to be a top voice
Right.
in certain spaces. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I also go a bit beyond for people who are trying to garner attention in a positive way, repurposing, not just reposting, repurposing the content that bigger creators have for
Mm.
your smaller audience. So if there is an influencer who has 50,000 followers and they speak about internships, how can you begin to craft that for the audience that you have? The information is there.
Okay.
Somebody already cultivated it and found it. As long as you don't copy and paste the whole thing, but you like, oh, I might know people who may be interested in a Tiffany and Co internship. So maybe I'll go ahead and post that on my platform because all you did was find the role, add your narrative to it, and shared it. They can do the same thing. So beginning to repurpose
Mm.
content that you find and deem relevant to your audience is also important.
And
Um,
it's easy too. It's not something,
it's
it's not a
not
heavy lift.
hard.
It is not hard at all. That is one of the easiest things to do. So yeah, y'all should do it.
It's about that consistency though. Like you can do it today and decide tomorrow I don't want to do it. It's not going to work unless you really are consistent and have a goal in mind. Before we had Taylor, I was really on LinkedIn
Not me,
heavy.
y'all.
No, I'm sorry. Before I had my daughter, um, I was on LinkedIn heavy, and I feel like now I am I am reaping the consequences of not being consistent.
Mm.
I was one of those people who was I was always consistent. LinkedIn was my number one platform. I was using LinkedIn before more than I was using Instagram, and all my posts had traction. Everything that I posted went far, and I think that's the reason why I was able to get the jobs that I've gotten in the last few years because my presence on LinkedIn. Since then, priorities have changed. I've been more focused on other things. LinkedIn is like, we're not messing with you, dog, because you left us. And I'm like,
The algorithm will do that.
valid. Yeah, they move on. They move on. So that's a real time example that, in terms of being consistent, what that can and can't do. Uh, I even announced professionally to the platform that I was having a daughter. So I made a post saying that my next role was of dad, and I made a little
Oh,
caption and
that was real
image,
good.
and that was something that I wanted to share in a way that was creative and so there are always ways to find way. There are always ways to share news that you don't deem as professional on the platform, and I think that's still why LinkedIn is my number one platform to me that I engage with.
I have a question for you about that. And
Hmm.
I've been getting this question. And I think about it from a Gen Z perspective, but I would love to hear it from your perspective. Where is the line on LinkedIn, like, of professionalism and personal life? Is there a line, and where would you draw it?
There is a line, and I think that it's really similar to how you feel about in person.
Mm,
What would you tell a coworker who you don't interact with outside of the office? You wouldn't tell them your deepest, darkest secrets, but sometimes in order to gain continuity and coalition and community, you share enough for people to want to relate to you. So for me, my method for sharing that I was going to have a daughter is I was getting a lot of messages. I was happy with my role, number one, but I was getting a lot of messages from regular people, from companies, and I needed something on my platform to say, here's why I'm not responding. Here's a
mm,
pause, right? So that method, there was a method to that. But I wouldn't go on LinkedIn and say that I'm dealing with a health issue. I wouldn't go
Now,
on
now some people do that though.
I wouldn't like,
Mm,
and unless it was specifically relevant to something that I wanted to share that made sense.
mm,
Uh, but if I had a large platform, and I may share that because it's inspiration to people. But right now, that's not something that I would do.
I see.
Um, I also wouldn't go there to talk about some of the interpersonal problems that if I have a problem with a family member or I have
Ah,
a problem with one of my best friends, that is what's the value that people can draw from this. It's all about what value that people can take from it that's still within their space of professionalism. And there are ways to craft and to bend and shape the message to fit the LinkedIn narrative. But I think the rule of thumb is what would you discuss with your coworker who you don't talk to outside of work? I think that's
that's a good way of
a
putting it.
good line. How
That's a
about
good.
you? Where do you draw the line in terms of what you can share on LinkedIn, what you don't?
I think you kind of said it in the way right there about, what would you share with a coworker who you normally don't talk to. I think, to your point that you mentioned, it's all about how can you, blend the two. So in
Mm-hmm.
my case, my anxiety is something that is personal, but it affects the way that I work and I show up.
Right.
It's somewhat
Right.
fortunate. I hate that, but I mean it's true. So it relates. Or, like, for example, I think I talked about, and I made a post about, like, networking and how, again, because of my anxiety, it can sometimes, in my just introvertedness, it can sometimes be difficult to network. And so I kind of made the bridge between those two. So I think if you can bridge the personal with the professional, to do that, but yeah, to do it in a way that you are comfortable with other people seeing it. I mean, I feel like it's just like with anything. Like,
Yep.
if you are uncomfortable with people seeing it, then maybe don't talk about that, because it's a high likelihood that your boss or a future recruiter could see it. But if you can make the connection between said thing, that's personal, and your professional life, then I think it's fine. Like, I've seen people talk about, like, their health issues or other things, and talk about how maybe it's affected their ability to work, and, like, so on and so forth. So I think stuff like that is fine.
So let's continue the conversation and let's go back to the basics. Your keywords and skills are up to date. Your profile picture is great. Your about me section is on point. You're liking, sharing, commenting. Everything is right. You are going under other influencers' posts and making comments. How do you now find your people?
Mm,
What are ways that you have found to find not just your audience, but what audience you want to be a part of? Like what spaces, and because this is not yet at the space where like I'm applying for jobs confidently. This is where is my community on the platform? How
mm.
do how do we begin to help people to find their community on the platform?
I think it's all in what you're looking for. So with me and my community, honestly, I outside of, like, the people who follow me, I build my community organically. So for example, I work in HR, specifically in DEI. So what one thing that I've started doing recently is that I literally go on LinkedIn, I search DEI, and I search like DEI specialist, DEI pro, whatever. I'm searching DEI something. And I look through the people, and based on what they're doing, where they work, I literally will send them a message saying, "Hey, my name is Taylor. I also work in DEI at X company. Would love to just have a chat with you." And believe it or not, this has worked very well. I actually have a friend who I've made who works at Ulta, and she and I have started having monthly, like, or bi-monthly syncs to where we can discuss like what DEI looks like broadly, what it looks like
Mm.
at our companies, like giving each other best practices. So that's how I've built like a small community, just kind of organically. And I think also the other thing is finding other people who share your interests through LinkedIn
Hmm.
has like groups, and all these various things that you can join. I think that also makes a big difference when you join those groups because people are often posting articles and having conversations. That's also something that you can do if you are looking for a more like niche community. And also, I think it just goes back to my original point of the commenting under different people's posts. I wouldn't say just comment under anyone's post because they have a lot of followers. I think it's
Right.
important for the person whose post you're commenting under to be, again, something that is relative to you. And then from there, you can also, that's a good way to build community, like just having conversations with people in those comments. That has actually had me or helps me get a lot of like my, I guess, LinkedIn influencer community friends by doing that.
I think that this seems very archaic, I guess, in nature, but still it works. Searching hashtags
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, something that Taylor just mentioned, which was looking for other people in your industry. So I'll pivot a bit because I think you gave a lot of great tips in that space. I want to pivot to now you're job searching and you see roles that you like, but you don't know how to stand out in the for the recruiter to hit you up.
Mm,
And I think that this, what we just talked about in terms of how you find your community, also relates because if you find yourself in a position applying for a role, but you don't know what experience a recruiter may resonate with, here this part is for you. What you do is search just job title in the search bar, and you'll be populated with people who have done this role or do this role at different companies. What you do is you look at their profiles to see what sticks out to you. And
mm,
you look at the job description on the other side and say, what resonates? Like, what does this job description have, and what do these people have? Now, be clear that because the person has the job title, they may not have a description for that job. So you might have to go through a few profiles to find it. But the hack that's needed for you to find a role and to find experience for the role that you want is to look at the people who already have these roles in different companies and see what is on their profile. I'm not advocating for you to steal. I'm advocating for you to be inspired in order to see, well, this person got a job. And sometimes they'll have a little insignia that says, LinkedIn helped me find this job, or I found this
yes.
job on LinkedIn. Those are the people who you want to look at because you see their experience and what they do at this job. That means that what they've done previously helped them to get that job, and LinkedIn helped them to optimize that process. So if you find yourself in a position where you're like, I want to be a DEI specialist, I don't know what they even do, I have some experience that I think is relevant, search that up in the search bar and find people who do what you are trying to do and be inspired by their work experience. It only works if you've done it, right? But you may not know how to write it out and how to formalize your actual experience.
That is a great tip. Y'all LinkedIn stalk people. It's all right.
It's
Um,
fine, yo.
yeah, it
It's
is fine.
fine.
Now,
It's
I will say
fine.
they might see that you are LinkedIn stalking them, and there is a way to turn that off in the back end.
Talk
Um,
about it incognito.
you might want to do that. But it is always beneficial to LinkedIn stalk people, whether that's the recruiter or again people who currently had a role. That's a great tip, Travarus.
Recruiters. Great segue.
Mm.
Let's talk about. You have your LinkedIn profile up to date. Your profile picture is good. Your about me section is on point. You like, comment, and share on the people's profiles you found in your community. Now you want to find a job.
Let's do
Recruiters aren't hitting me up. They're not hitting me up, right? They're not contacting me. How do I begin to go on offense and begin to talk to recruiters? What is the first? Let's talk about what not to do first when
it.
talking to recruiters. Give me one step of what not to do, and I'll give you one step of what not to do. Then we'll talk about what we should do in these conversations. So you go first.
Please do not ask them to find you a job based off of your skills. You should already know what role you are interested in applying for, and you should already have a rec number. Period.
Facts. What I'll say the first thing is don't be too aggressive.
Yeah.
Don't be too aggressive. This is they don't work for you. This is not supposed to be transactional. It's supposed to be a conversation that spans to the point where they may begin to introduce you to opportunities. But Taylor, like Taylor said, you should know the job description. You should know everything. But don't be too aggressive. Don't be too assertive. If you're thirsty for the opportunity, they'll notice.
Yes.
So Taylor, with that said, what are some do's in terms of sliding into recruiters' DMs?
One thing that I've seen one of my recruiter friends say that he's more likely to respond to a DM if it's eye catching. So whether that's you having a creative like subject line or whether that's you finding something that you have in common with the recruiter or somebody who you all both know. Now I would say be careful with the both know thing because sometimes people reach out to me and they're like, "We have mutual connection X," and I'm like, "I don't know who that
I
is."
don't even know this
I
person.
don't know who that is. But I mean, it may be another common connection, like you both went to the same university, or
Hmm.
maybe you both worked at the same company way back when, or something of the sort. Those things can be helpful when it comes to at least making an initial connection with the recruiter.
I am aligned. I would say make your first line your best line.
Mm.
That because I don't want to be a hypocrite to y'all. Let me get comfortable and tell y'all a little bit about.
Now he had to adjust his chair. Okay.
Just gotta make sure that y'all know you could do every single thing that everybody is telling you to do, and you'll just sit in my pending connections.
Everybody's sending
Sometimes
Travarus pending connections.
they are, but sometimes I'm just not in the space where I want to connect with you because people are making it impactful for me.
Mm. Okay.
If you are someone who because they tell you to send a connection, and then have a blurb, right? I read all the blurbs, and some of the blurbs aren't inspiring. They don't resonate with me. Like you are a third year CS major. Oh, you want an internship? Automatically, like, nah, I'm cool because you're not trying to connect with. We're not trying to talk. You just want to connect with me because of my position, and
Right.
we're not. I
True.
don't. I'm okay. You can follow me, but I'm not really interested in your content because you are here to take. What are you here to give? And I
Situational.
don't want people on my platform who aren't giving much value. I want to learn. So I want to be very clear in saying make your first line in your connection request or your DM to a recruiter impactful, such as I was really inspired by blank 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 blank. What got you here? If I get the sense that you're only contacting me because of my position, I'm less likely to connect with you. But and I'm being very clear about this. LinkedIn is a platform for people to connect with you based on vanity reasons. Where you work, what do you do? I get that. I'm just past that in my career at this point. So most people won't feel that way. I personally feel like I want to learn from you as well. It's a connection. If if I don't want to connect with you, I'll just let you follow me, and that's fine because I want to provide valuable content to other people. But I don't want to follow people who are not really posting or posting things that are not relevant to what I am trying to learn and aspire to do.
One thing I also will say, just in general, as we're talking about this, is sometimes the recruiter is not the person to reach out to because
Facts.
I'll be honest, the likelihood of you getting a response from a recruiter is slim. Because if you had the idea to, message them, then how many other people had that same idea and probably had the same message or a similar template? So I always tell people the recruiter, meh, okay, whatever. Reach out to people who, as you
On the
mentioned before,
team.
Travarus, yes, who are on the team or who have had the job previously. Now, this is specifically for my interns right here. If you are looking at an internship, let's say you want to be, I don't know, a UX designer at, I don't know, Universal Studios or something. I don't know, something of the sort. You can literally go and type in UX design intern in the bar.
Facts.
And you can
Facts.
also filter it by company, and it will bring up people who have the role currently and who have had the role. So I always tell people, like, companies are going to hire for interns every year.
Hmm.
Most often, they're going to hire for the same, if not similar, interns. So that gives you the opportunity to literally talk to someone who has been in the role like within the last year or two. So I always say, the recruiter, great, maybe, if you can even get it in the door. But the best way to get your foot in the door is to talk to someone currently on the team or who has recently been on said team.
Amazing insight because you can literally see what the winning blueprint is before you even get in the door.
Exactly. They already got the whole thing. You got the platform to the house and the foundation so that you can build upon it.
So I mentioned to folks earlier that I've gotten the last three roles from LinkedIn. I'll tell you a small story about how I got here. So I made the transition to tech officially in 2019, and LinkedIn was a really big part of that. I would say that I was going to events in person, and I never forget, I went to this event at Netflix when I was living in California. It was about, uh, it was a black in tech, like panel, all black folks who were more mid to senior level in their roles at Netflix and a couple of different companies. So I went and I was very eager at this point to learn everything that I could about how to crack the code and breaking into tech. They had a question and answer portion. I asked the question, how do you go about standing out and not just on LinkedIn, but how do you stand out with your application to get these roles? There were five people on the panel. Three of them gave the same answer. The answer was, man, I don't know. Like, people hit me up. And I followed up immediately. Well, for some of us, that's not possible for the recruiters to just find us. So I'm trying to find the authentic ways to connect with people without, because how unrealistic is that? People find me, dog. I don't know how to. I don't know. I can't tell you what to do. People contact me. I found that to be really like, how are you looking to help people if you can't tell me how to stand out? I put that information in my pocket, and I thought it was useless. Fast forward 2 years after that, I was in that position where I wasn't applying for roles. Opportunities were coming to me, and I was like, man, how quickly those roles change.
The
And
tables have turned, honey.
but the difference is I could describe how I got from zero to contacted. And
Mm.
it all stems from everything that we've been talking about here. Nobody's born with a LinkedIn presence. It really takes consistency and really cultivating your audience and to make sure that people understand what kind of value you provide. What you may not know is these recruiters aren't just looking on LinkedIn for their job, they're looking on LinkedIn for themselves as well. So if you're providing engaging content to people in general, those people span different genres of work. Some of them are recruiters, and some of them may think of you when they have a requisition open. They're like, "Dang, that one person who said this really cool thing, or they was really creative, or they were really they were really engaging." They may think of you when they have these requisitions open because the name of the game for them is to fill the role. So I'm saying all that to say the proof of concept that we're talking about works. I've gotten a job at three tech companies. The
Mm.
first the first company that hit me up on New Year's Eve
What?
of 2018. Yes, I
Who
never
is
forget.
recruiting on New Year's Eve?
They was grinding. I got the DM December 31st, 2018. And I had been working towards his goal for about a year at this point. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, it's on.
God
And I
said, "Here you go."
talk about it. And I started that job like mid March, second week in March of 2019. And that's where my tech journey started. But none of that stuff would have been possible if I wasn't posting consistently.
Mm.
And the thing that I always like to say, I've said this a million times across different panels, keynotes, yada, yada. LinkedIn will recruit for you in your sleep if you're active.
Amen.
If you're active, people love to talk about how entrepreneurs make money in their sleep. They go to bed with $1 amount in their bank account, they wake up with more. LinkedIn can do the same thing for you. You put the work in the daytime and it works for you at nighttime. You have
Hmm.
to make sure that you feed the machine and the machine will do the work for you. So there's
Okay.
no secret sauce as to how to get noticed on LinkedIn or to get a job on LinkedIn. It's literally consistency, sharing, liking, commenting, finding a community, searching hashtags, looking at people who have the job that you want, being inspired by their job experience, making it relevant for you, talking to recruiters, making sure that your first line is engaging and really just being consistent.
Consistent is the word.
Consistent.
That is a word.
Consistent. So we've covered a lot, and I want to make sure that we get to our season finale edition of
Woo!
Tips with Taylor. Taylor, take it away.
Yes. So, my tip for you all is related to what I have a lot of conversations with students about and early people early in their career. And normally the thing, and honestly, even people late in their career, to be honest, normally the thing is like I don't know about LinkedIn. I don't know. I should post, but I don't post. And da, da, da. My whole thing for y'all is just do it. Just do it. The first post is always going to be the hardest, but do not overthink it. And you don't have to make it anything super extravagant. I think people are always asking me about what they should post or like what they need to post or what it should include. You literally can talk about the project that you did in class last week. You literally can talk about the project that you did at work yesterday. Like it doesn't have to be something that is super, new or reinventing the wheel. It is all as in what Travarus mentioned with being consistent. And again, people are always I think a lot of people are afraid to be seen in the way that they I don't know. They think what other people will think or say about them, which valid, understandable. But at the end of the day, as we mentioned, if this is something that you need to do for yourself or that you want to do to increase your visibility, you just have to do it at the end of the day. My first post, I was like, ooh, don't know how I feel about this. But it really resonated with people. So I think it's just all in trying it. That is my tip for today. Just try it. Just do it. Like Nike said.
Give it a shot.
Just
What's
do it.
what's the worst that can happen? You get 0 likes. You had 0 likes before you that morning that you before you did it anyway.
That's a, yeah, that's a word.
Well,
That's
one of my things I like to say is like, what's the worst I can say is no. All right.
yeah.
That's where you started at. You
Yeah,
have
that's
nothing.
true.
You don't. What do you're not losing anything. You're not losing anything.
I like that. So let's get into some concise advice,
Let's
Tavares.
do it.
So someone has asked, they don't really know how to navigate LinkedIn. They're saying that it just overall feels intimidating because people are always posting like these happy things and all they have a job and maybe this person recently has been laid off and
Hmm.
they are struggling and they just don't know how to talk about this or communicate this on LinkedIn. What is your tip for them?
I think that what you shared earlier in terms of that authenticity is really important. Let's talk to the person who has been laid off first. The person who's been laid off, I think that what you understand is that you are not alone.
Mm,
And with not being alone, that means that you have found an audience. But people who have been laid off could be looked at. You can feel that you can feel shame for some reason, as if it was you or this is something that I experienced on my own, or people don't understand because all this sharing is wins, you'll be surprised to know there are a lot of people who are also going through that and need kind words and
Hmm.
need a perspective of like, I feel that exact same way. Let's say you're not sugarcoating it. Look, I've been laid off at my job. I've been at this place for 5 years. I am not happy with this decision, but I am optimistic about the future. You never know who with the person that needs that last part. But I'm optimistic about the future. Folks need to hear the authentic stories. And maybe you don't write that post day one you got laid off. Maybe you write it a week out, 2 weeks out. But you need to communicate this stuff because you never know who's watching. And if your platform is up to date, if your profile picture and your about me section and everything is intact, people who are looking to hire me look at your profile and be like, you know what, maybe I'll consider them for our role. That's for the person who got laid off. For the person who was net new on the platform and are feeling overwhelmed, that's a good thing because now you are challenged to fit in a place where you are looking to build. And if you are overwhelmed and you are overcome with that feeling and you don't do anything about it, you're not going to help yourself. You're
True.
not going to help yourself. If you are in a space where you're like, I want to make an impact on this platform because I want to end up getting a job, we've laid out the blueprint for you to do that. It's literally simple. One plus one plus one plus one plus one equals results. And it's not going to happen overnight. And I understand it is a lot of people who are making a lot of highlight reels on this platform. And there are a lot of recruiters who are not responding to email, to messages. There are a lot of people who are not helpful. But I promise you, the more consistent you are, even if you had 97 connections, the more consistent you are, the more you will find your people.
For sure. That
You
was
have to be dedicated to the process of this is the goal is to find a job, but there are smaller steps along the way. You find a community, you find people of influence, you find people who are hiring, you find people who could be mentors.
mm,
All of those things add up to eventually you getting a role. So that's the concise advice that I would give you on that.
that was amazing, Travarus. I
Thank
love
you.
it. Consistency and authenticity, y'all. Them the words of the
I am really I am really like excited about the season that we've had
I thought you
because
were gonna say sad that it's over. Okay.
no, it's not over. Season
It's not.
two,
It's just
season
the
two
beginning.
is season two is coming soon. And if you're listening at this point, we appreciate you because what you'll get with season two is guests. You'll
Okay.
get subject matter experts. You'll have people who have done this, and Taylor and I have a wealth of knowledge, an incredible wealth of knowledge. But we're going to hear from people who do things that she and I don't do.
Okay, because there's a lot of stuff I do not know.
Right. And we're looking to learn as well. So as we embark on this journey, we have loved the connections we've been able to make this season. This is the worst we're going to be. It's only up from here.
It's only up from here. And remember, if anyone would like to sponsor us, please call us
Talk
on
to us.
email us
Talk to
at
us.
care to elaborate. Info at care to elaborate. Thank you.
Info at
.com.
caretolaborate.com.
Thank
You
you.
know, but Taylor, do you think we're adequately able to articulate how to navigate LinkedIn and how to network on this platform?
I think we were able to elaborate on everything this season from
Facts.
LinkedIn to code switching to self celebration. I mean, I don't know about everyone listening, but I feel like we had a very diverse, type of things we were talking about and subjects. And I think we elaborated on all of them eloquently and in a way that is digestible. So I think we've elaborated just great. And I can't wait to continue to elaborate with you, Travars.
I agree. And one thing that I'll say as we wrap up, go binge, go talk to your friends, go
Mhm.
share this with everyone. I haven't said that all season. Like share if you're watching on link on if you're watching on LinkedIn or you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, follow us, connect
Like,
with us,
comment, subscribe.
like, comment, subscribe. We talked about how to get a job. Help us to spread the gospel of how a millennial and a Gen Z uh, corporate people navigate these spaces, especially as a person of color, especially as a black person. So
Period. And also, y'all, tell us what you want to see. I think that's a
yes,
big thing. like, especially as we bring on more guests. I mean, Shavaris and I have our own idea of, who these people are and what that looks like, but let us know what you want to see for sure.
Yep. And with that, this has been an amazing season, amazing episode, and we will see y'all very soon.
Yes, season 2.